So now we've understood the structural form of the ego state, which is when you're just looking at the different ego states within you, and you've done your egogram, and hopefully you've done the exercise of the egogram together with your team. What I now would like to do is to take you to the next level where we look at the functional side of the ego states. And that is where we now bring in two people. So you can just imagine all of a sudden communication and people being together, complexity, because you bring your own 6 ego states and the other person brings their own 6 ego states. So in the way that I want to visualize it for you is to have person A and to have person B. There are many different transactions on a daily basis. And by a transaction, I mean if I say something to you and you say something back, that is a transaction. We are communicating between the two of us. Now, the first type of transaction is what we call parallel transaction. And very often they are complementary to one another. So that can be when it's, for example, a parent speaking down to a child. Remember, it's ego states, which means the parent is thus inviting the child to respond from their child back into the parent ego state. So it's parallel, there's no crossing. It can also happen that it's a parent responding to a parent. I know it can be that someone is complaining about the economy or the security in a country, and the other person is agreeing and say how ridiculous it is and that we need to all immigrate. So it's two critical parents speaking to one another. It's not a very constructive conversation, but things are flowing. Same over here. Team leader to an assistant. Fill in the form. Sure, I will. By when do you need to have it ready? The problem is that very often the child especially, or the parent, gets tired of having to be in that position and they crave more equal conversation. But that is parallel transactions. You also get hidden transactions. So if one of my team members walk into the office at 10 o'clock in the morning and I look at my watch and I go, sure, I wonder what the time is. Technically, it sounds like an adult statement. I wonder what the time is. But the meaning behind that, the hidden message that I'm saying is, you are late. And that is a hidden transaction. And we don't know how the other person is going to respond. They might respond from the adaptive child to go, oh yes, I'm so sorry the trains were late, or public transport, or whatever might be the reason, and I'm really sorry it won't happen again. Now, inside of this transaction, what I really want you to understand is that we actually send invitations to people, and that's why they can also react the way they do. So we often blame other people for the way they communicate to us, but we should first look at how do we communicate to them. So for you as a leader in the business or as a team leader, think about it. If you speak to your employee and you say, I cannot believe that this is wrong, I'm getting tired of telling you how to do this, you are speaking from your critical parent, right? Now, you're speaking to the person's child, and what you are hoping to get is a response from the adaptive child. And the adaptive child might be, I'm so sorry, I'll really work harder, I'll work later at night in order to fix this, I'm really, really sorry. The rebellious child might go, well, if you're so tired of explaining it to me, why don't you just do it yourself? And they walk out. We don't know how they are going to respond. So then it's the critical parent. Then they respond from, well, just do it yourself. Then you go further into your critical parent and you start criticizing. They go further into the rebellious child, and all of a sudden, what do we have? Conflict. So careful of how you construct your sentence, because if you come from parent, you are inviting the child. You just don't know which child you're going to get. The other way is also possible. Think about your team members. If a team member comes to you from their child, so they are now speaking, we can do it the other way around, so they're speaking to you from their child. They are literally inviting you to speak from their parent. So if they come and say, I'm so sorry, I've missed the deadline, what they want from you, the invitation is for you to respond from nurturing parent, maybe to say, it's okay, I can help you, don't worry about it. If you have a bad day, you respond from your critical parent. And that can look like, seriously, another deadline missed? What's wrong with you? Can you not get it just fixed? So, and I'm exaggerating now, but just to give you an idea. So they've expected a nurturing parent. they get a critical parent, and now they can either stay in the adaptive child, or they might even jump into the rebellious child. And again, it's parent-child, parent-child. And you go further into your child or further into your parent and further into your child, and frustration just builds. So hopefully that gives you an understanding as to why communication is sometimes so difficult and why it so quickly goes into conflict. Now, here's the idea. If someone is, let's say, because you're a team leader or a leader, if one of your team members come from their child, instead of responding from your critical parent, is to go down to your adult so that you can cross the transaction and thus inviting them to go into their adult. What does that look like? So that is really about not responding from seriously, what's wrong with you, or save them and say, don't worry, I'll do it for you. It's kind of, I've noticed that you've missed the deadline. What is your plan to fix this? And once it's done, why did that happen so it doesn't happen again? You still respect the person, but you tackle the issue. The adult is the questioning and the factual part of things. So it's not to respond from parent, but to cross the transaction. And that can happen in many, many different ways. Even if someone is late, instead of you coming from your critical parent, speaking to the child, you can come directly from your adult and say, you know what, I've noticed that this is now the 4th time that you are late. I would really like to discuss this so that we can make sure that this doesn't happen again. That way, that person doesn't have to feel that they need to protect themselves and go into rebellious child, or feel so guilty that they need to go into sorry mode forever. So there's different ways of doing this, but keep in mind, what does your parent and child look like, and how can you cross transactions with your team members when it really is needed to avoid the conflict? So that's the one part. The other part is that I want to show you is that each one has positives and negatives. So if we look at the negative ones first, on the nurturing side, the nurturing parent is overprotective, smothering, and disempowering. Think about it. If you keep on saving your team members and doing their stuff for them, they are not learning and you're not empowering them. So you're actually taking their ability to learn away from them. However, on the critical parent side, it's judging, inflexible, controlling, and very often condescending. We might think that what comes out of our mouth is adult, but our facial expression and our body language can still show condescending or controlling. So that's on the parent side, the negatives. Then you also get the adaptive child negative. So you can see here, it is submissive, anxious, that almost victim mentality, and then a lot of guilt comes from the adaptive child. On the rebellious child, remember it's the word no, forget it, it's that almost like tantrum type attitude. It's rude, destructive, and very uncooperative. And then lastly, the negative on the free child is irresponsible, because it's all about having fun or just making impulsive decisions, but also selfish, because I want to do what I want to do. As long as I'm having fun, I don't really care about the rest. And then, because of that, there's a sense of inconsiderateness. So those are the negative sides of the ego states. Then, on the positive side, for the critical parent, there's fairness, there's the ability to set boundaries. Because of the criticalness, you can set boundaries. They provide structure and discipline. The nurturing parent is about making sure that people are taken care of, so show a very caring attitude. They provide comfort, they can show empathy, but also they are very encouraging. Then on the adult, on the positive that we have here, it's all about the here and the now. So it's thinking, it's questioning, and it evaluates reality. It doesn't make rash decisions, it doesn't make emotional decisions, it thinks things through. Now you ask me, why didn't I put a negative next to the adult? It's simple. If you are only an adult the whole time, the negative is, it's boring. Where's the emotion? Where's the passion? Where's the kind of thinking about new ideas? So it's really just one word summary, and the adult on its own, in my opinion, is boring. So, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a little bit. And then on the positive side, for the adaptive child, it's polite, it's adaptable, there's a lot of flexibility with the adaptive child, and very considerate. And also, I always think the adaptive child has the ability to apologize and to say sorry when they know they were in the wrong, whereas sometimes parents, they struggle to do that. Then, on the rebellious side, there's a sense of assertiveness, and it can also come through in the critical parent. But if you have that ability to say no, remember, ask assertive, tell assertive. If you, from your rebellious child, can say no, then you can really do it in a constructive manner, and your assertiveness increases. You can also stand your ground with the boundaries. So your critical parent creates the boundaries, and your rebellious child can stand the ground on the boundaries and hold them tight. And then on the free child, there's that sense of a very curious mind, genuine feelings that come through, they're creative, and of course a lot of fun. Now, the way that we show it is very simple. It's negative, negative. You've got all your plus signs here. Just want to show this to you. And here is the big thing that excites me about the ego states, is a very theoretical way of looking at it in terms of how do I have a conversation and am able to almost have a bullseye effect when there's something that bothers me. And here it is. So if you look at the positives and the negatives, you can see what we are doing here. We are clustering all the positives together. And this is what we call the okay box, or I'm going to write it at a different space, the integrated adult. When I did my transactional analysis training, a lady by the name called Karen Pratt introduced this to us, and it is one of the most amazing tools that I use every single day. So think about the scenario, think about the context, and how can you construct your sentence so that the other person can hear it from the okay box. What is going to help you? Which ego state is going to help you to deliver that message really well, instead of inviting negative ego states with the natural way that you communicate? Enjoy this model. It's amazing. Practice. When you watch TV, your series, your soapies, whatever it is that you do, see how people change and how people get invited, and then they actually accept the invitation, and then the conflict starts. That's it for ego states. I hope you enjoyed it.